Hello everyone, here the iPhone 15 Pro Max vs Samsung's 24 Ultra. Who is the true king of video cameras? I believe you must have your own opinions. The Chinese New Year is coming soon, and I used to love carrying a line of lyrics with my backpack. Now, let's set out to search for the blooming flowers in my heart. Nowadays, many people choose to spend this holiday through tourism, seeking a paradise, receiving pure spiritual enlightenment, seeing the beautiful scenery of this mortal world, and seeing different lives under the same sky. Spending this holiday in this way will definitely leave extraordinary memories. As a native of Pinjihua, Sichuan, I also want to take advantage of this video to share the beautiful scenery of my hometown. Here, there are not only blue waves and ripples, but also vast mountains embracing the stars. There is a human march dance in the east wind, and neon clothes and feather clothes reflecting red. If you have plans to travel during the spring festival, why not come to my hometown and experience the beautiful scenery, as well as the vibrant enthusiasm of the people in Pinjihua. Actually, this is also one of my original intentions for making this video. Through the lens of the recently popular flagship new Samsung S24 Ultra, let's get to know my hometown. With the official release of the Samsung S24 Ultra, the battle in the flagship mobile phone market has become more interesting, which has also made many people more curious about who is better between the two phones compared to the iPhone 15 Pro Max. In terms of hardware, I directly listed their parameters in front of the screen, which can be used as a reference list for everyone to see from the information. The hardware and functional parameters of both phones are quite good. So what are the actual differences in performance? Let's take a look directly at the comparison between the two phones in the imaging section. Firstly, regarding the photography section, for the sake of fairness, considering that the iPhone 15 Pro Max does not have a 3x optical zoom range, this time we will mainly compare the performance of the main camera and 5x telephoto range samples from two phones. Our first stop is the Jincha River Grand Canyon near Yashala Scenic Area, Pingdi Town, Rena District, Pinjihua. Standing on the glass walkway, we can overlook the Jincha River passing through the canyon like a dragon. Seemingly calm in reality, the rocky cliffs on both sides of the shore are like knives and axes chopping at the cliffs, and the magnificent surroundings are particularly captivating. Pressing the shutter button on the canyon resulted in a main camera sample photo of the vast land and blue sky echoing each other. The main difference between the two phones lies in the white balance, which is relatively more accurate for the iPhone. Samsung, on the other hand, has a slightly yellowish color, which can be clearly seen from the ground. However, Samsung's image tolerance is better than that of the iPhone. Firstly, Samsung's overall visual effect is more eye-catching in terms of sample brightness. On the iPhone, the dark details are not as rich as Samsung's. After zooming in on both samples, it can be seen from the number on the left side of the screen that thanks to the advantage of high pixels, Samsung's blade details will be more rich and coherent. The iPhone has excessive sharpening marks and some details have been lost. The issues reflected on the second set of samples are basically the same as those in the first set. Samsung's samples are still slightly yellowish overall, and there is also a significant difference in the style presented by the two phones in terms of color tones. Samsung has a visual sensation of autumn afternoon. However, due to the issue of tolerance, the iPhone appears to have a sense of desolation, and even after zooming in on two sets of samples, the details of the iPhone still show obvious sharpening marks. Relatively speaking, Samsung's handling method would be better. In terms of color, the difference between the two phones is also very significant. In order to better reflect the difference between the two phones, we have specifically selected the Millennium Olji village located in the Yisha Scenic Area. Yisha is the largest natural village in China. The village has a long history and is known as the first village in the world. The Tea-Horse Ancient Road, known as the 200-year-old Tea-Horse Road, carries the vicissitudes of life and has gone through a difficult and desolate period of deep horseshoe pits left on green stones. The poet couldn't help but stretch out his spine to ponder. As soon as he arrived at the village entrance, he saw strawberries bathing in the sunshine. This was undoubtedly a feast of sight and taste. Through the comparison of this set of strawberry samples, it can be visually seen that Samsung's red color is more vibrant and green saturation is also higher, but there is no excessive intensity. Strawberries perform very deliciously under the lens, making people want to indulge in them. Compared to iPhone, the colors are very dull. The entire sample is like a mask separated by a layer of fog. The colors are not eye-catching and bright enough, and it doesn't seem to arouse appetite. Let's take a look at a few sets of samples taken with 5 times the focal length, and the issue reflected by the strawberry group in front of us is the same. The flowers and plants under the iPhone lens look much dimmer compared to Samsung. In terms of color expression, the iPhone is indeed as usual ordinary and plain, while the flowers under the Samsung lens are more bright and eye-catching, and the sense of light and shadow is better in expression. The photos look more three-dimensional, while the iPhone visual effect is relatively flat and the raised lens catches the eye of the memorial archway of China's Yifirst village. Undoubtedly, this is the presentation of the rich history of Yisha village. In the recording of the 5x focal length lens, the female lead camera performs differently. The white balance of the two phones in the 5x focal length sample is surprisingly consistent, and both are very accurate. The color expression style is also quite similar, and there is no obvious difference. But from the edge details of the building, you can see Samsung's details, which are clearly clearer and more abundant. The iPhone has obvious sharpening marks, as if it were a cropped image. But the main reason for this difference is still the difference in the telephoto scheme between the two phones. The S24 Ultra's telephoto lens adopts a more traditional periscope telephoto scheme. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has been showcased at the press conference, featuring a unique periscope design with a parallelogram structure. Light needs to be refracted 4 times before imaging, so it can to some extent reflect the new periscope structure of the iPhone, which may be weaker than the S24 Ultra. After comparing several sets of samples, it can be seen that this situation is not uncommon. The two phones do have their own unique preferences and characteristics in terms of color tones. The iPhone's overall blandness was born out of its excellent white balance. Although Samsung has a yellowish white balance, it excels in both color and tolerance. The building at the entrance of the village must be considered a signature check-in spot for a salad. Looking at it from a distance with a 5-fold focal length, you can see the difference in resolution between the two. In terms of the tiles on the top of the house and the details on the eaves, the iPhone has been lost to varying degrees, and tolerance has also become unstable. The dark details in Langshan's area are clearly not bright enough, and the details are not as good as Samsung's phone stepping into the village, which can perfectly demonstrate the video shooting ability and awkwardness of both. From the comparison between the two, iPhone has achieved good anti-glare performance in the lens and smoother anti-shake processing. Moreover, the overall screen stability of the iPhone is indeed better than Samsung's silky performance when rotating the lens. Arriving at the village alley, I was instantly attracted by the gray tiles and red walls, which had a tranquility far from the mortal world and a profound humanistic atmosphere. In such scenes, especially when using a 5x telephoto to reflect the sense of space compression, due to the lack of detail expression, the 5x sample of the iPhone seems to have a stronger visual effect in terms of space compression than Samsung's. The overall sample is as bland and tasteless as plain water, very plain, with a moment of sunlight bathing in the village. I can always find light and shadow with stories in the corners of the streets and alleys. Some of them are green fields and red walls, while others are the collision of architectural elements that constantly ignite and burn, even a cup of tea exhibition. In such high light ratio scenes, the post-production style of the iPhone does not show a strong light and shadow rush, while the S24 Ultra has a highly contrasting light and dark scene, presenting an excellent three-dimensional sense of the heavy story and moving text of the village of Chara. Moreover, in the noon sunshine, every place where the sun falls showcases the vitality of this world. Every corner has a story of pedestrians waiting for us to discover and explore. The excellent presentation of light and shadow has also made me fall in love with using the S24 Ultra phone to take photos and record our lives during this period. Walking through the corners of the village alleys and streets, I was increasingly attracted by the sheepskin drums in the distant courtyard, which means that the best performance of Isara's star, which is more humanistic, is the folk and simple appearance of gorgeous clothing, and even the enthusiasm of the villagers, which I recorded one by one with a shutter speed. The main difference between the two phones in terms of portraits is still in terms of color expression, while the iPhone still has an overall flat color expression. The characters and background did not form a good sense of separation. In this regard, the S24 Ultra performs relatively better, with a picturesque and mysterious village in front of us. Slowly unfold. Overall, the main advantage of the iPhone 15 Pro Max in terms of main camera and 5x zoom is still in terms of white balance. The S24 Ultra may have a slightly yellowish performance, but relatively speaking, Samsung has an absolute overwhelming advantage in terms of tolerance, resolution, color expression, as well as resolution and light and shadow shaping in the telephoto range. For friends who value comprehensive performance. Performance should be more comprehensive, and after being happy, there will always be stinginess. The Zhengjia Tavern is located in the center of Yashala village, surrounded by a fireplace by 3 or 2 friends. Holding up their phones, it is another feast of sight and taste. The strength of an imaging flagship cannot be solely reflected in the quality of video shooting in photography. In terms of color expression, Samsung's performance basically continues the color tone style in photography scenes. The overall color is quite eye-catching, but it is not blindfolded. At the same time, the overall brightness and tolerance of the image are more eye-catching compared to the iPhone. The color presentation style of iPhone is quite heavy. This personal feeling still depends on everyone's preferences, and there is no saying that anyone performs absolutely better than anyone. The smoothness performance of both phones is very good when shifting the camera position. However, Samsung experienced a failure at the end of the video, which is not as good as the iPhone's performance. The loss of focus during this zoom process is a sporadic issue. During this period, the iPhone 15 Pro Max also experienced a similar incident as in the following video. Of course, the Samsung S24 Ultra surprised me not only in terms of photography, but also in comparison to the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The S24 Ultra has a more practical triple focus range. The nearly 2,000 acres of rice-terraced fields in Xinjiang, which have been accumulated through hundreds of years of hard work by Lisu compatriots, are presented in a magnificent way in front of the camera, which cannot help but marvel at the wonder of harmonious coexistence between humans and nature. On the terraced fields at the foot of Longzuo Mountain, Jushu seems to be describing his new video in his heart. I raised my phone and took a step forward, heading straight to the top floor of the small building. It was inevitable that I wanted to fully capture the magnificent and beautiful scenery of the entire New Mountain Terrace. Both phones had their own advantages in video recording, and during the first half of the constant speed climb up the stairs. The image stability of the two phones is almost the same. However, when climbing rapidly on the second step, Samsung's screen showed a certain jelly effect, but the overall impact was not significant. Relatively speaking, the iPhone performs better in terms of stability. The winding ridges of rice fields seem to showcase her graceful figure 5 times or 10 times, which is clearly recorded by the S24 Ultra. The humanistic revelation of farmland straw reveals that this photo of Jushu and Lisuantes has really touched me, as ancient and new collide on this stage where time and space intersect, growing into vibrant vitality. Next, we arrived at the Rizhou Banshan Hotel located in Nii County to check in. The Rizhou Banshan Hotel was built according to the situation and is one of the few luxury resort hotels in the country, full of Santorini style. This place is far from the hustle and bustle of the city, and you can see the hotel style built halfway up the mountain with sunshine as the main theme. In fact, it can also easily allow flagship people to enjoy the beautiful scenery of the mountains. At night, Ultra also possesses extraordinary expressiveness, ensuring that every photo has a high brightness appearance, while also effectively suppressing the highlights of the point light source. This makes the image have a more outstanding purity performance, and there is no obvious deviation in color presentation, which is eye-catching and eye-catching. Under the camera recording of Samsung, some ordinary delicacies on the first-level stalls also instantly become delicious and delicious, making people's fingers move. The biggest feature of Samsung samples in extreme low-light environments is their pure image without obvious noise, and their ability to suppress highlights is also excellent. The overall appearance of the image is also outstanding and comfortable. Overall, the S24 Ultra phone has been used by me during this period of time. I am able to easily perform excellently in various scenarios without producing high-quality samples. In terms of convenience, applicability, and actual presentation effects, I am outstanding and can hardly identify any obvious shortcomings. I think this is probably what an imaging flagship should look like. In terms of nighttime videos, it is evident from these two comparison videos that the iPhone screen is smoother and the brightness of the screen is also higher. However, correspondingly, this also causes many highlights under the iPhone lens to almost appear overexposed, while Samsung does not have this situation. Appearing, and even in the chaotic lighting at night, the iPhone also has very obvious ghosting, while the S24 Ultra hardly shows this phenomenon. It needs to be affirmed that one thing about the iPhone is its color rendering effect at night, which is almost no different from Samsung. The high saturation color reproduction is very eye-catching, and all kinds of fruits look very appetizing. However, the iPhone 15 Pro Max also has a very obvious shortcoming in its focus performance when shooting sports images at night. This video focuses on the issues with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, with a noticeable ghosting appearing at the beginning of the video. Then, the bright light was clearly overexposed, followed by the child skateboarding appearing in the camera. The picture always appeared in a relatively blurry state, and there was not a very outstanding picture quality performance. However, the S24 Ultra has relatively better performance in these points. Therefore, overall, when evaluating, both phones actually have excellent video shooting ability. The advantages of the iPhone 15 Pro mainly focus on the coherence of the anti-shake zoom process and nighttime brightness, while the S24 Ultra has the iPhone 15 Pro Max in terms of color presentation, focus tracking, and highlight suppression. An unattainable performance. So I believe that when you see this section, you already have a judgment on who is the true king of imaging machines. At the end of the video, I would like to advertise my hometown again. Friends who want to go out and play during the Spring Festival can consider spending money to experience our warm flower city. Our warm home, a bowl of panjihua lamb and rice noodles, and the beautiful and diverse natural scenery and simple and quiet historical culture will definitely leave you with a beautiful memory. Alright, that's all for this episode of the video. If you think this S24 Ultra is indeed a movie, remember to like the video on this device with one click for subscribe. Goodbye.